First of all, I'd like to say welcome to everyone who's joined us. For any guests, my name is Megan Stewart. I am the manager of Tanknology's International Division. And I am very happy to be introducing Jason Bloch today. Jason is the Vice President of Tanknology's Inspection Services Division, which not only incorporates these 30-day walkthrough inspections we're going to be discussing today, but also our above ground storage tank inspections and our compliance management services. So Jason has overseen these 30-day walkthrough inspections really since their infancy back in 2013 with a single client and about 4 inspectors. And he's grown this service to now over 5,000 inspections per month and over 50 inspectors and 3 operations managers. Jason's been in the industry for, goodness, what now, about 12 years. And so he has quite a bit of knowledge to share, and especially given that these inspection services are a relatively new service in the United States. The federal law mandating these inspections didn't go into effect until October 2018. We're happy to be sharing some of what we've learned and what we've seen in the United States, and then how that may apply to the international markets. So the presentation should be right about 30 minutes, and after that, we will open up the floor for discussion. With that, Jason, I will turn it over to you.
All right, thanks, Megan. We're going to talk about our inspection services today, and you know, I'm happy to take any questions at the end, and we'll start off here. A little bit of background on Tanknology. We're the largest provider of petroleum system compliance solutions here in the United States. Our crews provide testing and related services at more than 85,000 sites each year for customers of all sizes in every corner of the country. We've tested over 2 million tanks and manage fuel site compliance needs, perform inspections and fuel filtration and polishing for more than 3,000 customers a year. We service both the UST and AST storage tank markets through our regional operations offices that cover the U.S. with local regulatory specialists that cover the country. Outside the U.S., we have licensees that provide our services in more than 20 countries. Today, we're going to focus on the UST market, and more specifically, 30-day walkthrough requirements. So the walkthrough requirements are the result of basically 2 pieces of legislation. The first was the 2005 Energy Act, which outlined 3 categories of site operators, A, B, and C operators. More specifically, in 2015, there was a rewrite to 40 CFR 280, which outlined the requirement for periodic inspections. And in October of 2015, the legislation passed saying that no later than October 13, 2018, so there was a 3-year introduction period, that owners and operators must complete the following. They have to do a 30-day walkthrough inspection that checks basically 2 items: spill containment, spill prevention equipment, so that includes the spill bucket itself, making sure that it is liquid tight, that it has good integrity, removing any liquid or debris in that spill bucket, removing any obstruction in the fill pipe, and making sure that the caps are securely mounted to the fill pipes. And then also looking at release detection equipment. So in most cases, that's an ATG system, making sure that the system is working, that it's free of alarm, and then checking for any alarms that have gone on in the last 30 days to make sure that they were appropriately responded to. Annually, we're required to look at containment sumps. So again, we visually check those for damage, any leaks, excessive corrosion to metallic components, making sure that they're free of liquid and debris. And if it's a double-walled sump, we look in the interstitial space as well. And then we look at handheld release detection equipment. Sometimes that can be a groundwater bailer. More often it's a tank stick, making sure that that stick is in good condition, that it's readable, and that it can accurately and appropriately gauge for any water in a tank. So we're given 2 choices. One is we can go with whatever the local implementing agency has required. So a lot of states have their own regulations that conform to the federal specs. Conversely, we can go with a national standard of practice, which is, in our case, PEI's RP900. It's the recommended practices for inspection and maintenance of UST systems. In addition to the physical inspection, owners and operators are required to maintain certain records, and that includes walkthrough inspections for the previous year, annual test requirements, certificates of financial responsibility, and tank registrations. A lot of facilities will have a compliance binder similar to what's in the photo, and they catalog their inventory reconciliations, again, their tank registrations, any compliance documents, and catalog it in these binders. When putting together an inspection program, it can generally be done in two ways. It can be done in-house or through a third party. They're generally done by a Class B operator, and as we said with the 2005 Energy Act, it outlined what those categories are. The Class B operator is the person that's designated by the tank owner and that has essentially responsibility for making sure that day-to-day compliance is maintained at the facility. And that Class B operator can either be someone that's employed directly by the tank owner or by a third party in most states. So when you're putting together this program and you're thinking about doing it in-house, there's some considerations. The inspections can be a challenge. One, there's a physical aspect to it. We're lifting sump lids in a lot of cases that are 70 to 100 pounds. So you have to ask yourself, do I have the employees that can lift those lids? Do I have a data management system so that once those inspections are complete, where I can catalog them and archive them so that they're available for state or national regulators down the road? Do my employees have the regulation knowledge? So do they understand what's required in every state, in some cases localities? Do my employees have the time to do a thorough inspection? So when you think of a convenience store manager or a maintenance person, what other tasks do they have that might be more pressing than a routine walkthrough inspection? And a lot of times the store managers might not have that time, and so they might cut corners, or they may just not do it altogether. And do I have the right tools and equipment? Do my employees have the right certifications? What do I do with the water once the inspection is done and we find water in a spill bucket? These are all questions that need to be asked when you're thinking about going in-house. On the flip side, you can partner with Tanknology, and we have the manpower to do it. Again, as Megan said, we're doing roughly 5,500 inspections per month in, I believe, 46 states at this point. We're on top of the regulations. We understand what's required in every state. We have great working relationship with the regulators. When you delegate the responsibility to the technology, it gives you the confidence to know it's going to be professionals doing the inspection, people that have the right tools, the right parts, the right training, the right certifications, and we're going to know how to keep our customers out of violation. A brief timeline on our program. So in late 2012, I was asked to centralize our inspections operations. Previous to that, they had been done kind of inconsistently out of our different regional offices, and we saw an opportunity that inspections would be coming down the pipeline. So we had some early adopter customers, one in the Southeast, one in the Northeast. We hired 4 inspectors, and we were doing about 450 inspections per month. 2015, that escalated. We hit our kind of first big milestone. We were doing 1,300 inspections, 1,350 inspections per month. Fast forward to 2016, 50,000 inspections. We celebrated that milestone. Mid-2018, we're at 20 inspectors, 2,000 inspections per month. And then in December of 2018, we hit our 100,000th inspection. Here's a snapshot of what we look like today. 53 inspectors, roughly 5,500 inspections per month, and we have a nationwide footprint. We do our inspections using HighTech Methodology. We utilize app-based solutions. That allows us to input our data in real time from the site. We can run that app on phones or tablets. Most of our inspectors are equipped with iPads so that we have a consistent experience across the board. When our inspectors get their work orders, they're pre-populated with information such as the customer name, the site number, the address, and the work order number, and that helps us reduce errors from the field. Our reports are geo-stamped, so they have addresses from where that report was submitted, including latitude and longitude coordinates, and that helps us verify that our texts were where they said they were. Photos are taken from the site within the app, and they're uploaded directly into the report so that we're able to document those deficiencies and verify that the work was complete. And then on the back end, we take XML data from that inspection, and we're able to populate our tanks database, and that allows us to track our deficiencies and provide gap and trend analysis to customers. An example of the RP900 report, this is the National Code of Practice that we referred to earlier. And this is the RP900 monthly inspection. And then here's an example of a state inspection. This is the state of Colorado. Most states have developed their own forms that essentially conform to either the federal minimum requirements or to the RP900 or somewhere in between. And this is an example of Colorado's. So there's a record keeping element that goes along with the 30-day walkthrough inspections. So some examples of things that must be maintained on sites: maintenance alarms and records. So if a Vita route goes into alarm, there should be a corresponding maintenance record that a local contractor came out, fixed an issue, and that alarm went out as a result. And so operators are required to not only document the alarms, but also what that follow-up is. Annual test results, which includes tank tests, line leak detector tests, monitoring certifications, and then air quality records as well. Registrations, proof of financial responsibility, and then monthly leak detection. So when we go and do the inspections, we're pulling tapes from the ATG, and a lot of times that's a CSLD report, a static in-tank test, or a liquid sensor report, and those need to be retained on site. And ABC operator training certificates. Every site is required to have an A, a B, and a C operator. So things that we're looking for in the inspections. Really, we're looking for irregular site conditions. Anything in alarm, anything that's been in alarm in the past 30 days since we were last there. Containment spill buckets, sumps, we're making sure that they're clean and dry. Making sure that overfill devices are unobstructed. And I don't know if this happens internationally, but a lot of times we'll find that the delivery drivers have placed a tank stick into the fill riser. That way they can empty their load quicker. And what that does is it defeats the flapper device. We're looking at dispenser containments, making sure that the UDCs are dry, no weeps or leaks, making sure that all the piping is in good condition, no excessive corrosion, making sure that hanging hardware, including whip hoses, nozzles, breakaways, and hoses are in good condition, not dry rotted. Looking at the record keeping, again, ABC operator training certificates. And then in a lot of cases, we look at customer specific items. Some customers are very in tune with certain things. So we look at decals, make sure that the Department of Agriculture decals are in place, looking at their credit card displays. And in some cases, in some areas, skimmers are a real problem. So we look for skimmers. We have a skimmer detector that tells us of any rogue devices that might be in the dispenser. Here are some examples of irregular conditions that we've come across. We've got drums that are improperly labeled and stored behind a C-store. We've got a sump that's full of liquid. It looks like fuel and water, and that sensor's been lifted out of position. Once that sensor gets lifted out, two things happen. The alarm stops chirping in the back room of the convenience store, which is great for the clerks, but it doesn't detect a leak, and that's a real problem. Here we've got a truck bay that's had a fuel leak inside, and we've got a vapor bucket that is full of liquid and looks like water and product, and it's nearly up to the poppet. And once it gets higher, it poses a water entry risk into the tank. Again, here we've got a vapor issue where the poppet has been removed from the vapor adapter. And then we've got a torn spill bucket. And we know just through a lot of analysis that spill buckets are the absolute leading cause of release into the environment. I believe the last stat I saw was 77% of all releases were from the spill buckets. And this is a single wall bucket. So if that liquid, whether it's water or product, rises to that level of where that tear is, it's going to go right out into the backfill and contaminate the soil. Here we've got dry rotted whip hose and a weep that has developed in a dispenser. You can see it kind of leaking down the filter there into the UDC. So here's Don Elderbaum. Don is one of our senior inspectors. Don ended his first career with distinction in the U.S. Air Force. He was a fueling specialist for nearly 30 years with the military, responsible for multiple Air Force bases, making sure that their fueling systems were maintained. And we were lucky enough to get Don to come work with us about 6 years ago. So here he arrives on site for his 30-day inspection. He proceeds to the ATG console, which is oftentimes the first thing that our inspectors do, to pull their release detection records. He finds a sensor that's been an alarm in one of the dispenser pans. He opens the dispenser door. He finds 18 inches of fresh product in the UDC, and the sensor was lifted from the lowest position in that UDC. So what it turns out is that there had been a local contractor there 2 days earlier, and they were there to repair a broken shear valve. After the repair, that tech didn't adequately tighten the union above the shear valve, which led to the leak. In this situation, our timing was very fortunate because it was just a couple of days later. Don was able to trip that shear valve, which prevented any further flow of fuel, and he was able to stop the leak before it overflowed onto the forecourt or any release into the environment. And I think that just really goes to it bolsters the argument for why there is a 30-day inspection. Had we not been there, it may be months before any annual testing is done, and there may have not been eyes on that UDC. And so it's really the timing was in our favor there. Goes to show you why we do the inspections and what we're able to accomplish. Here are the most common deficiencies that we find. We ran some analysis, and then we found for every 1,000 inspections we do, we found 1,100 spill bucket deficiencies. Okay, and what does that mean? So that spill bucket deficiencies, it's really a catch-all term. So it could be a bucket that doesn't have integrity, that's got a tear in it. It could be liquid in that spill bucket. It could be damaged, otherwise debris, a broken fill cap. It could be a tank stick that's been jammed and defeating that overfill device. So really anything within that bucket falls into that category. And again, for every 1,000 inspections, we found 1,100 deficiencies. For containment sumps, we found about a 35% deficiency rate. So for every 1,000, we found 350 deficiencies. And with dispensers, that includes liquid in the UDC, piping weeps and leaks, hanging hardware issues, about 220 deficiencies for every 1,000 inspections that we do. Other common deficiencies that we find are, again, inoperable overfill devices, paperwork that's either missing or incomplete, and that could be inventory reconciliations, test reports, tank registrations, damaged sump lids, or damage to the concrete, which may not be an environmental hazard, but it's certainly a safety and trip and fall hazard. So if someone were to drive over a damaged grade level sump lid, that could end in really a catastrophic situation. And a lot of things that we also find, like exposed wiring. So here in the photo, you can see the wiring has been run through this junction box, but it was not run through the side, properly grommeted. And that junction box is open, which really presents a major explosion hazard. So part of our solution includes deficiency tracking. And we integrate with existing managed solutions. So a lot of times our clients will come to us with another piece of software, and we're able to integrate with those solutions to track their deficiencies and provide them with the actionable data that they require. We automate our output, and that helps our clients reduce their administration time and cost. Again, the customers can leverage their existing platforms using us to capture the data. We have account managers and that infrastructure built to help with the resolutions, the scheduling, the deficiency tracking. We can customize our reports to customer-specific requirements, and we're able to resolve and close out deficiencies with our clients. So our data is in real time. As I mentioned earlier, our inspectors are equipped with electronic devices, usually tablets. So they're able to send us the data in real time from the field, and therefore we're able to provide our customers with real-time data as well. We send our customers either weekly or monthly summaries of any deficiencies that we find, customized reports. We're able to eliminate errors due to delays from the field because it is in real time. We're able to leave hard copies of the reports on site. So all of our inspectors are equipped with small printers in their vehicles. They're able to print out that report, leave it in the binder, and be on their way. And then we're able to provide gap and trend analysis for our customers. And that allows them to reduce their operations costs. Some fun facts. According to a 2019 EPA OUST report, 86% of operators are in compliance with the AB operator requirements. 75% of sites are in compliance with walkthrough inspections, and 68% of operators are in compliance with release detection and release prevention requirements. In 2019, from October 18 to September 19, there were 5,375 reportable releases. And what's important to note here is these are the ones that were reported. Generally, the threshold is 25 gallons. So there are many releases, small releases that probably fell below that threshold that were not reported. But that's the number that was reported to the EPA. We ran a couple of case studies. And the first one is a long-term client. They've been with us since the very beginning, about 450 sites that we inspect for them monthly. They've got waste drums at most of their sites and a ticketing system in place for any deficiencies. From 2018 to 2019, we identified a 27% reduction in total year-over-year deficiencies. That included a 9% reduction in spill bucket deficiencies, 29% in dispenser deficiencies, and 45% reduction in sump deficiencies. In 2018, again, for every 1,000 inspections we did, it's 450, but an average of 1.1 deficiency per site. And in 2019, we brought that number down to 1 deficiency per site. So essentially 450 total deficiencies per month. And here are the raw data, the raw numbers to support that analysis. So you can see here the spill buckets are by far and away the largest culprit in terms of deficiencies. A lot of times that's often water or debris in the spill bucket, which we're able to remediate for this client because they have drums on site. To a lesser degree, it's dispenser issues. Sometimes water, maybe a little bit of fuel in the UDC. Maybe it's a hanging hardware issue. Sumps were fairly low. This operator tends to keep their sumps in very good condition. And then release detection or ATG issues. And that could be that the ATG is not powered on, that it's not giving us the full passing and release detection for the past 30 days, things like that. We move on to our second case study, which is a new client. They're a large operator. They've got about 1,000 locations, and they've grown through multiple acquisitions. And they asked us to start our inspections mid-2019. Prior to our engagement, they were handling their inspections in-house. They have very few liquid drums on site, and in 2019, they had no maintenance ticketing system in place. From July to December of 2019, we found about 12,500 total deficiencies. That's an average of 2.61 deficiencies per site. So when you compare that to our first case study, excuse me here. going the wrong direction, where they have got between 1.1 and 1 deficiency per site, you can see there is a stark difference with 2.61 deficiencies per site. And here are the numbers to support that analysis. You can see the spill buckets are just astronomically higher. You got dispenser and sump issues, and a good number of ATG and release detection issues as well. Fast forward to 2020, they have installed a maintenance ticketing system similar to our first client. And as a result, we were able to bring those deficiencies down to 8,616 deficiencies. And that's over the time period of January to April of 2020. And that's an average of 2.15 deficiencies per visit. So that was an 18% decrease in deficiencies, really over a similar time period year over year. Our third case study is an established client that has been doing work with us for a number of years. They're a mid-sized regional operator with about 200 sites in multiple states. They've got no waste drums on any site and no maintenance ticketing system. In 2018, we identified 5.63 deficiencies per visit. And in 2019, 3.5 deficiencies per visit. So that's a 38% decrease in deficiencies year over year. Pretty stellar results. How do we accomplish such a decrease? Here are their numbers. So I've highlighted some numbers in red here. And you'll see for the dispensers and the sumps, there was a dramatic drop-off of deficiencies from first quarter of 2019 to the fourth quarter of 2019. Pretty incredible results. So how did we accomplish a 38% decrease? We stopped looking at them. In most of the states, Sump and UDC inspections are not required. And as a result, the client asked us to kind of skinny back our inspection to what was required by law. So the moral of the story here is just because we don't inspect a component doesn't mean that a deficiency doesn't exist. So when you're putting together an inspection program, we're looking at best practices. And the goal is really it's maintaining compliance and reducing OpEx for a client. And it requires a real partnership between the inspection company and the client. Our obligation is timely, accurate communication and inspections, letting our customer know of all deficiencies that we find. The customer has to provide a commitment to remediate those deficiencies. Otherwise, it's just going out and finding the same issues month after month after month. And at that point, we're not providing much value. We're just checking the box that the inspection's been completed. There has to be a good method to remove liquid, whether that's drums on site or a third-party waste hauler to come in and remove that liquid after the inspection is complete. And there should be a good maintenance or tracking system in order to identify what the deficiencies were and how they've been resolved. So we offer several programs. Our first program is really what's required by law. And this is going to vary from state to state. And it's designed to meet the federal regulations. So it includes the spill bucket checks, looking for damage, liquid, debris, any obstructions in the fill pipes, making sure that the caps seal tightly. If it's a double wall spill bucket, we check the interstitial space, looking for leaks and liquid in the interstitial area. And then we're looking at the release detection equipment, making sure that it's powered on, in good condition, no current alarms, any other unusual operating conditions, making sure that they're passing the release detection for the month, that they're passing CSLD, or if they're running a static in-tank leak test, or if they're running interstitial monitoring, making sure that they've got passing results for the past 30 days. Inspecting any handheld release detection equipment on an annual basis, and again, looking at the sumps and UDCs annually. Included with this package, we offer 24/7, 365 access to tanks. So it's a self-serve option where customers can log in remotely and pull their reports to run that gap and trend analysis. Our B program is really, it's an enhanced program. It includes full service management of our tanks module. So instead of making that a self-serve option, we make that a fully serviced option here at Tanknology. We email them all deficiencies that we find on a routine schedule, whether that's daily, weekly, or monthly, and we set those parameters with the client specifically. We remove on-site liquid, provided they've got a receptacle, a drum to place that liquid in. And that includes spill buckets on a monthly basis and dispenser pans and sumps annually. And then we verify any sumps that have gone into alarm in the last 30 days. So even though it might not be required by law, if that sump has gone into alarm, we open the lid and we validate whether there is liquid present, whether it's fuel water or if it's a false alarm. Our third package is really our best practices. It includes everything from A and B. Plus, we look at all sumps every month. Some customers just want that peace of mind to know that there are eyes on their sumps on a monthly basis. With this package, we include light part replacement. So sometimes it's decals, caps and gaskets for fill adapters and vapor adapters. We paint spill bucket lids. So there's API requirements and specs that say, regular, mid-grade, premium have to be certain colors, and we carry the templates and the spray paint and provide that service on either a customer-defined schedule or based on as needed. And then with this package, we look at other non-required items. And so that might be skimmers, hanging hardware, vapor poppets, anything that we can look at that's not required by law. And then our highest tier package is it's fully managed. And so it includes everything from A, B, and C, plus we remotely monitor the ATG console. We look for alarms. We track those alarms. We provide the resolution, dispatch their preferred vendors, or if they have in-house maintenance. We run fuel quality checks, so we can run clear and bright fuel samples from tank bottom or nozzle samples. And we do that on a customer-defined frequency. And then this includes our testing package, which includes line leak detector functionality, monitoring certifications, tank tests, air quality tests. And that's all based on state and local requirements and whatever equipment is on site. And then we provide repair tracking, and we close out with their maintenance providers. And that is our program. At this point, I'm happy to take any questions. If anyone wants to see another slide, I'm happy to back it up, and we can discuss any specific data points that you'd like. Kevin.
We're part of one of the major fuel corporations. It's very interesting slides, actually. We undertake something called critical equipment inspection. So it's similar to the frequencies that you've got here, and it's quite interesting, actually. I personally did an overview report of findings across maybe another 25 markets that we do these inspections on, and quite interesting, actually, in regards to what you found from your inspections. Very closely mirrors, maybe to an exact degree, what we've also found. Yeah, so it's very, very similar. It would be good, actually, that there are some additional bits that you've got here that maybe we don't do. So again, as I think you've just said there, you'll be able to share the presentation across to the viewers later on, yeah?
Absolutely.
Is that okay?
Yep.
Super, thanks for that.
Well, thank you. Appreciate you joining.
Sorry, Jason, the Milan again, Tanknology, South Africa. Listen, but how long does it take on average per inspection on the monthly inspections, the walkthrough one?
That's a fantastic question. So if we're doing what is minimally required by the federal regulations, which is opening the spill buckets and pulling tapes from the tank monitor, generally we can do these inspections in around just under a half an hour. A lot of our clients, really, especially the early adopters, we've got some clients from back in 2012, that kind of our first case study here. Really they got in and set the bar in terms of what a thorough inspection looks like, and truly a partner of ours. And for them, we do a lot more. And so that's, removing the liquid, looking in all the dispensers every month, looking in the sumps every 6 months. And so, that inspection is more like an hour, give or take, and a thorough review of their paperwork. So they want to know any gaps in their required documentation. They keep real thorough fuel totes, which, again, all of their fuel deliveries, all of their inventory reconciliation, tank registrations, financial responsibility, everything. And so we do a pretty deep dive on their paperwork every month, and that just come to be the expectation. So that's more like an hour. And then we've got clients that require even more, where they might have 6 tanks on site, and they want us opening their STPs every month. And that's real time consuming, both from a safety standpoint, where we're setting up our safety barriers, which is just more involved, to opening those heavy lids, opening the sumps, which might be bolted down. So some of those inspections can take 2 hours. So it really just depends on the client and what the scope of work is and what those facilities look like. I would say on average, a good number is about an hour, when we're looking at kind of a general assumption across the board.
Thanks for that. Another one. Have you got any sort of, even if it's a PDF version of all the screens which you guys use on the tablet, when they actually fill it in?
Sure, I can absolutely provide that. I didn't want to get too bogged down in the nitty gritty of how we do it, because I know that that's going to vary from operator to operator. But I'm happy to not only show static screens, but if you want to have a discussion about how to implement that process, we're more than happy to have that conversation as well.
Okay, brilliant.
I mean, it's great, really impressive in regards to the reduction in issues found since the inspections were done. Is there any understanding of where that level should be or will be as the inspections continue? I know it's a difficult question, isn't it? I suppose it depends on the state or the which sort of customer you're working for and the age of those assets. But is there any sort of intended trend that you do expect as you work forward?
That's a great question. And to be honest, before I started doing the analysis for this presentation, I didn't know where the numbers were going to land. And I was, in some areas I was not at all surprised. In some areas I was. I don't know what that number should look like. We have operators here in the U.S. that have employees that go out and they, literally Windex their spill buckets every day, and you could eat a meal out of them. That is not the norm here. Most spill buckets we show up and there's at least some, even if it's a 1/4 inch of crud and debris and some leaves and a little bit of water or residual fuel, that's more the norm. And I think it really is going to come down to what the enforcement environment looks like in that given area. And so states like California, where they're absolutely vigilant, again, you might find spill buckets that you could eat out of, but that is probably not the norm around the country. Some operators have hanging hardware that is always in beautiful condition, and some operators have hanging hardware that it's constantly cracked and in poor condition. And it really just goes to what their level of commitment is after the inspection. The inspections are a requirement, and some operators are going to want that inspection as a way to, check the box that it's been done. And they may not do much with the data that we provide them, right? And that's probably not as much of a partner. That's more, we're a service vendor providing an inspection that is required. for an operator that's really serious about having a real compliance program and making sure that they are compliant, they're going to take our data, the deficiencies that we provide them, and they're either going to remediate them quickly, or they're going to allow us to remediate them on their behalf. And in that situation, the numbers are far lower.
That's really good, Jason. Thanks ever so much for that. You give obviously you've got some good data sets there. Do you provide an overall recommendation to a client? So do you, as you do the inspection, do you split out some of the issues maybe in regards to quality of installation, or quality of maintenance, or maybe the quality of the actual product itself? I think sometimes it's you know, if a client does get data, it's obviously great to come or receive that with recommendations, and maybe take some of those pieces that I've just discussed into consideration.
Sure. You know, yes, to some extent, we are certainly their eyes and ears. They rely on us for a lot of not only data points, but also qualitative information, not just quantitative. So, you know, they want to know, you know, what are you seeing? What are the trends? Are we, you know, in good condition, bad condition, anywhere in between? And again, those are the clients that are really partners with us, that rely on us for, you know, generally a lot more than just kind of the check the box. And we're able to provide them not only the quantitative analysis, but, you know, really more anecdotal information. You know, what our inspectors in the field are seeing, any trends. You know, we might be able to provide information down to, you know, these sites have constant turnover in management, and you know, as a result, you know, no one other than us is really paying attention to these facilities, and the condition suffers as a result. So yeah, we're able to provide, you know, not only the quantitative data, but also some qualitative information as well.
Super, Jason, because of course with that information, then of course the customer can benefit from reduced maintenance costs going forward if you're picking up trends and whatnot. So it's a great value. Yeah, superb.
Jason, hi, this is Alan. Good morning. It might be helpful to talk a little bit about our business strategy with respect to positioning, you know, the overall value proposition, pricing, and how we're differentiating ourselves from, you know, some of the commodity service providers out there.
Sure. No, that's great. And, you know, where I was going to go next is really what we look like going forward. And I kind of speak to that value proposition. So really, you know, where we set ourselves apart from, you know, any competitors in the space is really our ability to handle more than just that walkthrough inspection. So it's really, what do we do with that data, and how are we able to take those deficiencies and turn those into solutions for clients? And so, you know, it's really easy to be just kind of, again, like the check the box, fill out the form, and report deficiencies. That's the easy part of the job. The hard part is, what do we do with that information? And where we're able to set ourselves apart is in the fact that we have such a breadth of services internally, right? So if we find a tank that is dirty because we've run a field quality check on it, we can then provide a solution for cleaning that tank. All right, and a lot of the other inspection companies don't have a field cleaning division. We're able to, if we find a fuel in a sump is a great example. And let's say our inspector goes out and they find, you know, a bit of fuel in a sump, and we can't figure out where it's come from. It's possible that it was just a little bit of residual fuel from a leak detector change out, right? I mean, that's a possibility. But it's also possible that the double wall piping may be leaking back into that sump as it's designed. And so we're able to then convert that deficiency into a solution by offering to send our testing folks out to run a line test. and really do a deeper dive diagnosis on what that problem is. And so we're trying to be more solution oriented than just observe and report. And that's really where our value add is. What we are concentrating on now, specific relative to the inspections business, is what other services can we provide while we're there. And we wrestle with trying to really stay laser focused on providing the inspections accurately on a timely basis, and good reporting. But while we're there, there are a lot of things that we find that we can convert into a solution rather than a problem. So if a client is missing a fill cap or a gasket on that fill cap and that cap is not sealing tightly, yeah, we can report it. And some clients just want us to. They just want us to report that deficiency and move along, right? And that's fine. We don't provide a lot of value in that scenario. But where we can really provide the value is carrying those caps and gaskets, like issues, and providing the solution in real time. So what we're reporting is, when we arrived, this was the situation. When we left, that deficiency no longer exists because we fixed it. So whether it's painting a lid with a little bit of spray paint and a template, if it's replacing some parts, if it's removing water, as long as the customer has a drum. And now we're looking into solutions. How do we take that liquid off site in some cases? We have to make sure that we're, abiding by the laws and making sure that we're doing it safely. But if a customer doesn't have a drum, how do we convert that problem into a solution? Does that mean that we can put some dirty water in the back of our vehicle and transport it to a recycling facility on their behalf? And all of these solutions, they result. The net result for us is increased business. It's positive revenue for us, and that's a good thing too. So we're able to really provide additional value and solutions for our clients, and and build our business in the process. And so we're constantly looking for new ways to provide that value.
One thing I find is that, especially when you've got a big group of sites under one ownership, some of the asset awareness is really poor. So I could go to a particular market and they don't even know, whether it's double skin, single skin, whether it's single compartment, triple compartment, whether it's pressure suction, whether it's what's the lid manufactured type, what's the chamber, is it brick, is it plastic, etc. So it's a great opportunity, isn't it, if you're going across to all these sites on a regular basis to build up that asset awareness. And I don't know if you do that, but I'm sure that some customers would really sort of benefit from actually knowing, all the asset fuel system type across their network. So again, I don't know if that's something that you do or you're looking to do.
No, that's a fantastic question, and one that I didn't include in this presentation. But we offer, we've got the manpower, right? We've got coverage across the country, and we have people that really understand fueling systems. So one of the solutions that we offer, we call FACS. It's a Facility Asset Catalog Service, and really it's a deep dive into a customer's equipment. So we catalog what's the make and model of the dispensers, what's the serial number of the dispensers,
Cool.
Who makes the tanks? Are they Xerxes? Are they containment solutions? Are they double wall, single wall, triple wall? What type of submersible motors do they have? Pulling serial numbers off the leak detectors. We can get down to the widget level and identify a customer's equipment so that they can populate either their own database, or we can populate our database for them. And that helps us to do a couple of things, right? Helps us to understand what's required based on the equipment that they've got in place, both from an inspection and a testing perspective. And then it allows us to scope additional services that may be required, so that we can kind of guide them to not only what's required, but best practices relative to maintaining that equipment, warranties, understanding, helping them to understand who their contacts are at the manufacturer level. We're able to provide them a lot of insight based on the data that we capture. We take pictures of everything, and we've done inspections that stray even from our core mission, down to what's the make and model of the hot dog roller grill and the soda machines. So customers basically utilize our understanding of the C-store, not only the fueling systems, but also the C-store marketplace. And while we're there, let's gather as much information on the walk-in coolers, on the hot water heaters, on the HVAC system. I mean, really, our capabilities are pretty much endless when it comes to capturing data. We've got the tablets, we've got the software. It's just a matter of identifying what the questions are, and we can populate the answers.
Super, Jason. Thanks ever so much.
If no further questions, just to wrap up, Jason, I think if you could hit on a little bit of a difference between a monthly inspection versus an annual inspection, which may be more commonplace in other parts of the world, just comment a little bit there. And then if no further questions, we will wrap up here.
Yeah, so just kind of hitting back on what's required here in the US. The monthly inspection in most states that follow the federal guidelines, it's looking in the spill buckets, making sure that there's integrity in that bucket, that it's not ripped or torn, making sure that the cap seals tightly on the fill adapter, making sure that the overfill device hasn't been defeated, and then removing any liquid that we find in that spill bucket. And then looking at the ATG system or whatever the release detection method is. So if they're manually sticking the tanks on a daily basis, I don't think we come across any sites here in the US that is still the primary method of release detection, at least within our inspection program. But if that's the case, making sure that they're documenting that daily stick reading, looking at the ATG system, making sure that they are passing their release detection requirements, whether that's CSLD, a static tank test on a monthly basis, or looking at their liquid sensor status, making sure that all the sensors, the interstitial sensors are free of alarm and have been free of alarm for the past month. So really that is the basic requirement on a monthly basis. On an annual basis, sumps are required to be opened. And again, that's very similar to the spill bucket check, where we're making sure that sump has integrity, that the entry boots are not leaking or dry rotted, allowing water to enter or fuel to exit. Looking for excessive corrosion on any metallic surfaces, making sure that sump is free of liquid. And then if we find the liquid, remediating that, or at least providing the information for the client to remediate. And then making sure that whatever their handheld release detection device is, so if that's a groundwater baler or a tank stick, making sure that they've got it and that it's in good condition and it works. And that is what's required every 12 months here. And then anything above and beyond that is really just an operator that is trying to do the right thing, above and beyond for compliance or for best practices.
Not, then I think we will wrap up here. Please, if anything pops up in the next couple of weeks or months, feel free to reach out to us. We are here. Jason is going to continue growing our inspection services division exponentially, I am sure. And so we'll continue to collect data and maybe touch base back here in a year and just see what we've learned a year from now. Otherwise, I will be in touch with a recording of this presentation and the slides. And thank you all very much for joining us today.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time.